I remember the summer of 1944. I sifted through captured German archives years later. The truth of the Western Front was not written in casualty reports. It was written in logistics tables. On July 20th, 1944, at German 7th Army Headquarters, Le Mans, France, SS Obergrundführer studied the reports. He was General Friedrich Dollmann's replacement. His disbelief was palpable, growing with every page. 6 weeks after D-Day, American forces received supplies at a rate that defied all Wehrmacht logistics doctrine. We later found his hastily scribbled margin notes. They were confirmed in captured German archives. The Americans, he wrote, are operating field bakeries 15 kilometers from the front lines. This is either propaganda or a revolution in military supply we do not comprehend. Through intercepted radio transmissions and reports from forward observers, German intelligence documented the impossible. It contradicted 4 years of Wehrmacht experience. American soldiers, still locked in fierce hedgerow fighting in Normandy, were receiving hot meals and fresh bread. They got mail from home. One incredulous report even mentioned donuts. Women in Red Cross uniforms served them. The first Red Cross Club mobile had actually landed just 4 days earlier on July 16th. These converted trucks, staffed by American women volunteers, somehow merited precious shipping space across the Atlantic. To the Wehrmacht, which had stripped its soldiers of basic comforts for operational efficiency, this allocation was military madness. They saw extravagance. They failed to grasp the industrial logic. An army that could provide donuts under fire could certainly provide unlimited ammunition. German confidence in American logistical weakness ran deep. Since 1940, Wehrmacht intelligence had studied American doctrine. Foreign Army's West Intelligence Section, under Oberst Alexis von Rohen, consistently reported critical American dependence on material comfort. The mathematics seemed to support German assumptions. Captured military planning documents from a destroyed glider in Sicily showed U.S. forces required 45 of supplies per soldier daily. Wehrmacht allocations range from 9.3 when inactive to 20 in normal operations. German commanders, hardened by Russia, viewed this as proof of American softness. General Field Marshal Gerd von Rundstedt, Commander-in-Chief West, stated the typical German military philosophy. I read the post-war testimony of his Chief of Staff, General Gunther Blumenschritt. The Americans require 3 times our supply tonnage. Rundstedt asserted this in a May 1944 staff conference. They believe war is a matter of material. We have proven in Russia that will triumphs over material. He concluded, when their elaborate supply system encounters the friction of war, it will collapse. This was genuine German military philosophy. The Wehrmacht doctrine of Auftragstaktik emphasized improvisation and austerity. German soldiers trained to live off the land. They operated independently when cut off. The Americans' insistence on supplying luxuries, chocolate, cigarettes, writing paper, seemed to validate Nazi propaganda. Wehrmacht logistics officers calculated the impossibility. According to captured German documents, Major Henrik von Stiltenagel of Army Group B's supply staff presented analyses. To supply 12 divisions across open beaches, 8,400 tons daily was required. No military force in history had achieved even half this tonnage without established ports. The Americans claim they will accomplish this while under fire. It is mathematically impossible. What German intelligence failed to grasp was the scale of American preparation. For 2 years, the United States transformed Britain. General Eisenhower called it one gigantic military base. By June 1944, the Allies stockpiled 2.5 million tons of supplies, enough to fill a freight train stretching from London to Edinburgh and back.
The June 6th invasion fleet was history's largest naval operation, 6,939 vessels, including 4,126 landing craft. Beyond the numbers lay innovations German planners hadn't imagined. Specialized vessels included LSTs, landing ship tank, converted into floating kitchens. They had ranges and ovens capable of baking fresh bread while at sea. U.S. Navy records confirm LST-357 had refrigeration units maintaining 32-degree temperatures during the Channel crossing. LST-491 carried a complete field bakery. It would be operational within hours of beaching. This was planned allocation, not emergency modification. German doctrine would have considered it wasteful. German E-boat patrols encountered puzzling observations. Kapertan-Kapitän Friedrich Hoffmann, commander of E-boat flotilla S-130, noted it in his war diary. Observed unusual vessels in Allied convoy. They appeared to be modified merchant ships painted military gray. Purpose unknown, but emanating smoke similar to factory vessels. By June 26, 1944, D+20, American logistics achieved the impossible. Despite ongoing combat and no major port, the Americans landed an average of 15,000 tons of supplies daily across the Normandy beaches. For context, the entire German Army Group B in France received 8,000 tons weekly. Quartermaster Corps records show mobile bakeries were operational at Omaha and Utah beaches. Each produced 60,000 loaves of fresh bread daily. This wasn't the hard biscuit our troops subsisted on. It was fresh white and whole wheat bread. It was distributed warm to frontline units each morning. German intelligence officers couldn't reconcile what they saw. Hauptleutnant Franz Gockel, intelligence officer with the 352nd Infantry Division, reported to his superiors on June 28. Captured documents confirm this. American soldiers in forward positions are receiving packaged meals. They include canned meat, vegetables, crackers, candy, and cigarettes. Each meal contains more variety than our troops have seen in months. They discard half-eaten rations that our soldiers would consider feast items. The speed defied Wehrmacht experience. By June 30th, the Americans had landed 71,000 vehicles, 448,000 tons of supplies. They established 97 supply dumps across the beachhead. Our 1940 invasion of Norway, against minimal opposition, took 3 weeks to achieve comparable tonnage. German dismissal extended to the Mulberries, the artificial harbors. Wehrmacht intelligence identified components through aerial reconnaissance. The German naval assessment, however, was dismissive. Admiral Friedrich Ruger, RML's naval advisor, briefed Army Group B on May 20th. His post-war memoirs state, "The concept is theoretically possible, but practically limited. Atlantic storms and channel tides will restrict any temporary structure to minimal capacity. We estimate maximum throughput of 1,000 tons daily under ideal conditions." By June 18th, the American Mulberry A at Omaha Beach was operational. It initially handled 3,000 tons daily. It ramped up to 7,000 tons, 7 times German estimates. The harbor consisted of 600,000 tons of concrete in caissons, 180,000 tons of steel. Floating roadways accommodated 2,000 vehicles daily. German observers were stunned. Aus-Hans von Luck, whose 21st Panzer Division operated nearby, later wrote in his memoirs, "We watched through field glasses as an entire harbor materialized from nothing. Ships unloaded directly onto floating roads that adjusted with the tides. Trucks drove from ship to shore without stopping. In 1 week, they created port facilities exceeding many established French harbors. The psychological impact was immediate. The Mulberries represented engineering dominance. If they could build harbors from nothing, what couldn't they accomplish?" July 16, 1944, marked a devastating watershed moment. The arrival of the first Red Cross Club Mobile on French soil. The vehicle, nicknamed Daniel Boone, landed at Utah Beach. Within hours, it served fresh donuts and hot coffee to combat troops. German intelligence initially dismissed these reports. Oberst Friedrich von Mellenthin, intelligence officer with Panzergroup West, noted in his July 20th assessment, reports of American women operating mobile canteens in combat zones are either false or indicate American command incompetence that endangers civilians. But the reports were accurate. Within a week, 12 clubmobiles were operating across Normandy. These GMC trucks, modified with donut-making equipment, produced 2,000 donuts and 500 gallons of coffee daily. 3-woman crews worked within range of German artillery. Captured American soldier letters revealed the impact. Private James Morrison of the 4th Infantry Division wrote home on July 22nd. The letter was found on his body after the Saint-Lô battle. "You won't believe this, Mom," he wrote, "but yesterday I had fresh donuts and real coffee served by American girls, just like at the corner shop back home. We were maybe 5 miles from the front." He noted the Germans were shelling the road behind us. These girls joked and served donuts like it was a church social. By August 25, 1944, German logistics officers faced an unsolvable equation. Patton's U.S. Third Army was advancing too rapidly. Wehrmacht doctrine insisted it must halt for resupply. German experience from Russia proved mechanized forces couldn't operate more than 200 meters from supply bases. General der Panzertrooper Henrik Ebbebach's assessment to OKW on August 24th, found in captured German archives, stated, "American spearheads are 400 meters from their beaches. By every calculation, they must halt within 48 hours. Their fuel consumption alone exceeds possible delivery capacity." 24 hours later, German reconnaissance reported something unprecedented: an endless stream of trucks. They moved on designated one-way highways, operating around the clock. The Red Ball Express had begun. It shattered German understanding of logistics possibilities. The verified statistics defied German comprehension. 5,958 trucks, operated by 23,000 drivers, delivering up to 12,342 tons of supplies daily. Peak achieved August 29th. The trucks ran constantly on a 700-meter round-trip route. Drivers were changed like relay racers. Vehicles were serviced while rolling. 75% of the drivers were African American soldiers. They were segregated into trucking companies. They proved essential to Allied victory. These units maintained an impossible tempo. Trucks averaged 240 miles per day. Drivers operated on 4 hours of sleep per shift. German logistics doctrine established clear mathematical limits. Wehrmacht tables captured at Falaise showed the calculations. A mechanized division required 300 tons of supplies daily in combat. Delivery capacity decreased 30% for every 100 kilometers from supply bases. Beyond 300 kilometers, sustained offensive operations became mathematically impossible. The Americans shattered every assumption. By September 1944, they were delivering 20,000 tons daily to forces 500 meters from the beaches. A single American armored division consumed 750 tons daily and received it. The First Army alone burned 800,000 gallons of gasoline daily. This was more than the entire Wehrmacht Western Front weekly allocation.
Your voice should carry the quiet weight of experience, a person who has seen too much, yet speaks with restraint. Every word feels personal, deliberate, as if it matters deeply. Keep your pacing slow and steady, with a touch of emotion beneath the surface, not sadness, but gravity. Imagine you are sitting in a dimly lit room, talking to someone who truly wants to understand what happened. Tone and emotion. Speak with intimate honesty, not performance. General Major Fritz Boleyn, commanding the remnants of Panzer Division, made a bitter assessment. It was in a letter to his wife, found after his capture. "We are not fighting soldiers anymore, but an industrial process," he wrote. "They do not defeat us in battle. They overwhelm us with trucks." September 1944 brought reports German engineers refused to believe. American forces were constructing fuel pipelines directly from the invasion beaches to advancing armies. Pluto, pipeline under the ocean, and its land extensions seemed like fantasy. Major Hans Quain, a Wehrmacht engineer who built fuel depots across Europe, submitted an analysis to OKW on September 10th. Captured at Aachen. Pipeline construction requires specialized steel, precision joints, pumping stations every 30 kilometers. The Americans claimed to be laying 50 kilometers daily, using prefabricated sections. This exceeds German peak construction rates by factor of 10. The first Pluto line became operational September 22nd, initially delivering 56,000 gallons daily to Cherbourg. By October, multiple lines reached 300,000 gal. By March 1945, the system reached its full capacity of 1 million gallons daily. This exceeded the fuel consumption of entire German army groups. The psychological impact was devastating. Oberst Hermann Balk, one of Germany's finest tacticians, noted in his post-war interrogation, "When we learned Americans were pumping fuel directly from England to their tanks, we knew the war was lost. You cannot defeat an enemy who eliminates geography." Nothing demonstrated American logistics supremacy more dramatically than Thanksgiving 1944. Armies stretched from Holland to Switzerland. The Quartermaster Corps attempted the unprecedented, serving traditional Thanksgiving dinner to nearly 2 million American soldiers in Europe on the same day. General der Panzertrooper Hasso von Manteuffel, leading the Ardennes offensive, received intelligence reports he initially dismissed. His G2 summary for November 20th stated, "Agents report massive shipment of frozen turkey to American forces. This appears to be deception operation to hide offensive preparations." It was not deception. The cargo ship SS Great Republic departed New York October 15th with 1,604 tons of frozen turkey. It arrived at Le Havre on November 16th. Special refrigerated trains and trucks maintained the cold chain. On November 23, 1944, American soldiers in foxholes facing the Siegfried Line ate turkey with stuffing. They had mashed potatoes, cranberry sauce, and pumpkin pie. Units under sporadic German artillery fire were served hot meals. The 30th Infantry Division, near Aachen, received complete dinners despite German shelling. Captured American soldiers interrogated after Thanksgiving consistently mentioned the meal. They inadvertently revealed American supply capabilities to demoralized German interrogators.
The winter of 1944 to 1945 was the coldest in 50 years. German commanders expected American forces to collapse, remembering Russia. The Ardennes offensive relied partly on this assumption. Instead, the Americans launched emergency supply operations. They delivered 2 million sets of winter clothing in 3 weeks. The shipment included layered clothing systems, shoe packs with removable felt liners, sleeping bags rated to -30 Fahrenheit, and portable squad stoves. General d'Infanterie Baptiste Nice, commanding 85th Corps, reported to Army Group B in December 1944. American troops in Bastogne receive airdropped supplies despite complete encirclement. Containers include medical supplies, ammunition, winter clothing, and mail. He concluded, "Our troops, supplied from our own depots, lack basic winter equipment." The Bastogne airlift demonstrated flexibility. C-47 transport aircraft dropped 1,446 tons of supplies in 8 days to the surrounded 101st Airborne Division. Color-coded parachutes identified contents: red for ammunition, blue for medical supplies, yellow for food, white for winter clothing. The precision and volume exceeded total German airborne resupply capabilities for the entire Western Front. March 1945 brought the Rhine crossing. German estimates suggested Americans needed 3 weeks to accumulate bridging equipment. General Oberst Johannes Blaskowitz informed OKW on March 1st that the Rhine barrier would provide time to reorganize defenses. 7 days later, the 9th Armored Division captured the Ludendorff Bridge at Remagen intact. Within 24 hours, American engineers reinforced the structure. They ran 1,000 vehicles per hour across it. But Remagen was just the start. American engineers constructed 62 bridges across the Rhine in 10 days, a bridge every 4 hours. The longest, an 1,100-foot floating treadway bridge at Oppenheim, was operational in 10 hours. These were engineered crossings handling 70-ton tank transporters. Major Klaus Weber, an engineer officer observing at mines, later testified, "Americans threw bridges across the Rhine like ladders across a stream." Each bridge had its own traffic control and anti-aircraft defense. They built redundancy into everything. By May 8, 1945, VE Day, American logistics achievements defied every precedent. The Transportation Corps and Quartermaster Corps delivered 46.7 million measurement tons of supplies, 1.37 million vehicles, 21 million jerry cans, 570,000 GMC 2.5-ton trucks produced, 2.4 billion individual rations. Monthly consumption rates by March 1945, 1.2 million tons of supplies, 50 million gallons of gasoline, 8,000 tons of ammunition daily during offensives. These numbers represented a fundamental revolution in warfare. The Wehrmacht discovered tactical brilliance meant nothing against unlimited industrial capacity efficiently delivered. Post-war interrogations confirmed the unanimous recognition of American logistic supremacy. General Feldmarschall Albert Kesselring testified at his 1947 interrogation, "American supply achievements exceeded our calculations by factors of 5 to 10. He noted, "A German division at 50% supply was considered combat ready. American divisions wouldn't attack without 200% supply reserves." General Heinz Guderian provided the most insightful analysis in his post-war writings. We Germans brought tactical innovation. The Americans brought something more powerful, the ability to sustain operations indefinitely through unlimited supply. He concluded, we could win battles, they could feed armies. History shows which mattered more. General Franz Halder offered a philosophical assessment. We saw logistics as supporting operations. They saw operations as the delivery mechanism for logistics. They didn't defeat our army, they buried it in abundance. Japanese military assessments reached identical conclusions. Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto had predicted before Pearl Harbor, we can run wild for 6 months, then American industrial capacity will overwhelm us. General Yoshiro Umezu, Japanese Chief of Staff, stated, every battle was decided before it began in factories and cargo ships. American logistics success stemmed from collective innovations. Standardization. Every American vehicle used interchangeable parts. Mechanization. Germany relied on 750,000 horses for transport, consuming 20,000 tons of fodder monthly. Americans used trucks exclusively. Preservation. American forces pioneered military refrigeration, maintaining cold chains for blood plasma and fresh meat. Communication. Americans laid 100,000 m of telephone wire in France alone. Specialization. Purpose-built vehicles for every category. Refrigerated trucks, tanker trucks.
An overlooked dimension was female participation. 150,000 American women served in the Women's Army Corps, WWII. WWII personnel operated communication centers and managed depot inventories. They maintained punch card systems that tracked millions of items. Lieutenant Colonel Elna Hilliard, WWII commander in the ETO, noted, WWII personnel processed 40% of all supply documentation. This gender integration utilized population resources Germany ideologically rejected. American logistics superiority became unintentional psychological warfare. German soldiers who hadn't seen chocolate since 1942 could smell it on American POWs. G-writer Wilhelm Hoffmann wrote to his wife in December 1944, "The Americans we captured are better fed as prisoners than we are as soldiers. They threw away half-eaten chocolate bars. They used white bread for cleaning their rifles. We are fighting the entire wealth of America." General Deer Infantry Hans Schmidt testified in 1947, "Morale collapsed. You cannot maintain fighting spirit against such disparity." German officers who witnessed American logistics capacity weren't surprised by the Marshall Plan in 1947. General Lucius Clay employed former Wehrmacht logistics officers for German reconstruction. Colonel Hans von Griffenberg noted, "Americans applied the same logistics principles to peace that won the war." In Korea, 1950, American logistics dominance reasserted itself. General Adolf Hoyinger, later NATO chairman, noted, "They delivered more tonnage to Busan in 3 months than Germany delivered to Stalingrad in 2 years." Harvard Business School studied American logistics. Professor Theodore Levitt identified direct lineage from military innovations to containerization and JIT delivery. The information age began in quartermaster depots. Soviet commanders were equally stunned. Marshal Georgy Zhukov wrote, "The Americans delivered 500,000 vehicles to us. They shipped from Detroit to Vladivostok to Moscow with precision we couldn't achieve from Moscow to Stalingrad." Marshal Ivan Konev was blunter. "If we fight America, we face not their army, but their factories."
The punch card systems managing military supplies, largely operated by WWII personnel, were the largest data processing operation in history. This military requirement drove computer development. Thomas Watson Jr., IBM president, stated, "Military logistics requirements created the market and technology for business computing." The supply statistics compared to previous operations are staggering. German invasion of France, 1940, 3,000 tons daily average across established rail networks. American operations in Normandy, 1944, 15,000 tons daily average across open beaches. This five-fold increase in tonnage, combined with 20-fold increase in delivery speed, created operational tempo Germany couldn't match. Field Marshal Bernard Montgomery delivered the definitive assessment. American logistics was a war-winning weapon more decisive than any secret weapon Germany developed. Winston Churchill summarized, "The factory is mightier than the fortress, the supply line stronger than the front line." De Gaulle acknowledged, "Americans conquered not through superior generalship, but through superior supply." On March 7, 1984, the 40th anniversary of Remagen, former General Major Rudolf Langhauser met Captain George Gibbs. Langhauser admitted, "We prepared for American tanks, American artillery, American aircraft. We didn't prepare for American abundance." He concluded, "Your logistics defeated us before your soldiers arrived." Gibbs, 73, responded with pragmatism. "General, we figured any soldier asked to die for his country deserved at least a good meal first. Turned out well-fed soldiers fight better than hungry ones." The final statistics confirmed the industrialization of warfare. 570,000 GMC 2.5-ton trucks, 21 million jerry cans, 62 Rhine bridges constructed in 10 days. Total tonnage, 46.7 million measurement tons. 75% of truck drivers were African Americans. 150,000 WWII personnel supporting logistics. Where German commanders saw military operations supported by logistics, Americans saw logistics operations executed through military means. General Franz Halder concluded, "We focused on the operation, they focused on the process." History records who chose correctly. The German commanders learned a fundamental truth. Logistics capability doesn't support military power. It is military power.